1921 in New York City. The CFR, with major bases in New York City and Washington, D.C., describes its mission as promoting understanding of foreign policy and America's role in the world. In reality, the CFR employs politicians, legal experts, military and intelligence chieftains, and the lords of banking for one reason: to advance the elite banking family's agenda. The CFR's first incarnation attended the Peace Conference, and on May 30th, 1919, at the Hotel Majestic, this group of British and American banking cabal representatives, which included pre-CFR constructionists and their British counterparts, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, the RIIA, formerly known as the Chatham House, began their unholy alliance. Remember the name Hotel Majestic, because it would take on more significance in the late 1940s. Members at this first meeting included Colonel Edward House, Paul Warburg, and Herbert Hoover. John W. Davis, the personal attorney for J.P. Morgan, would become CFR's founding president. Paul Warburg would remain a highly influential member of CFR until his death. Carroll Quigley, professor of international relations at Georgetown University, published Tragedy and Hope in 1966, illustrating the real goals of the CFR. The powers of financial capitalism had another far-reaching aim, nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. The CFR-RIIA puppet organization, the League of Nations, stated its goals to be disarmament, preventing war, settling disputes, and improving global welfare, all of which were terrible failures as demonstrated by events that concluded in a Second World War. The League not only proved incapable of preventing aggression by the Axis powers in the 1930s, but was led by the cabal who financed the Axis and enriched themselves through its financial commissions. The League of Nations had a council of 4 permanent members: Great Britain, France, Italy, and Japan, and 4 inconsequential non-permanent members were elected every year by the Assembly in a token show of power sharing. However, by 1933, both Japan and Germany had quit the council meetings. The USSR was added in 1934, only to be expelled in 1939, 2 years after the Italians withdrew in 1937. Great Britain, who had colonized the globe by force over the centuries, did not seem very adept at keeping good neighbors. This had everything to do with the banking families attempting to wrestle control of governments away from the leaders of countries it tried to dominate, and these leaders took a severe dislike to the financial tentacles of the Warburgs, Passeurs, Rockefellers, and Rothschilds. Over the years, a number of Rockefeller's sons would join the CFR. David Rockefeller became its youngest director in 1949. The Dawes and Young plans for German reparations were formulated by Wall Street war machine and proposed through diplomats. These reparation loans generated huge windfall profits for the multinational bankers. The negotiators and profit takers for the U.S. and German sides were the same people who helped Hitler and the Nazis rise to power in post-World War I Germany. In 1926, Albert Vogler became the head of Germany's largest steel works, Vereinigte Stahlwerk, and as early as 1928, he began to fund the Nazi Party. He joined with other industrialists in signing the letter that successfully urged Paul von Hindenburg to appoint Adolf Hitler as Chancellor. Scholar Anthony Sutton makes it clear, after profiting handsomely from the German hyperinflationary distress of 1923 and planning to place the German reparations burden onto the backs of American investors, Wall Street found it had brought about the 1929 financial crisis. Meanwhile, Henry Ford made plans and implemented the construction of a massive factory in Cologne, which began building trucks that would later enable the Third Reich to invade France, Eastern Europe, and Russia. In 1931, Ford deferred many management duties in America to ex-boxer Harry Bennett, who enforced his will as Ford's fist with hired strongmen and ex-convicts. Hitler and Himmler modeled their Gestapo on Ford and Bennett, who had links to the Detroit underworld. The